Welcome to another episode of TIGOX podcast. I have the pleasure of having my sister Leisha here from England visiting. Whoop whoop. Welcome. So Leisha is going to listen to me speak about my poem, and then I want to ask her a question. So she's going to be ready to answer any question I'm going to ask her. Anyway, so the poem that I'm going to be discussing is Descend to Rise. Now, this poem has actually taken a lot of traction. A lot of people actually like this poem, have shared the poem, have shared the poem, have asked me for permission to share the poem. And it has actually opened doors that I never expected. It has been quite something, the feedback from this particular poem. So the poem is really speaking about the woman who has been oppressed for a period of time, for years, and getting the strength to come away from that relationship, to find the strength to move on and move away, whatever it takes. That is pretty much where that's where it's coming from. And there were persons who needed to hear this to feel strengthened, and it was passed on to them. That I actually had a friend, Kevin, who took the words and put it through an AI music creator and did a song. So that was pretty cool. So that was an experience that I never had before, to hear my poetry come through an AI music creator. So that was cool. And then I also performed this at a show. And after the show, I had women asking me for copies of the poem, asking if they can share it with others. Some of them saying how much it touched them. And one person actually asked if she could share it on a radio show. So that was pretty cool, where they actually spoke about the theme of that actual episode was about women who need to step away, get the strength to step away from something that's negative. So that again was pretty cool. And I also met somebody through this poem that helped to change the life of my son and myself, because we were having issues in a particular forum and we needed help and we couldn't find anybody to help us. Met this person through this poem who, so when she heard what I was going through, she said, I'm going to make some calls for you. And she did, and she came through for us, and we were able to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish for months. So, so that was an experience again, just from this poem. So the Lord really works in mysterious ways, because while I'm penning this, and I'm thinking about the many women who are going through this pressure, this oppression, they're not being able to be themselves. And I'm talking on behalf of them, not knowing that He's resolving issues that I'm going to have in the future through this. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the persona of the poem. So I was thinking, if I'm this person who lives in an upstairs house, every time I go down, up and down the stairs, and every time I go down, I am sure that I would have this feeling that I wish I could just run through the door and get away from it all. So I started the poem of descending the stairs. That's how the descent came in. And when you're descending the stairs, if you're looking at the front door, then there's usually, if it's daylight, your little light underneath the doorway. And I'm saying that light is calling, saying, come outside, step outside of the negativity. That's the persona that I had. I actually encapsulated years inside of the poems. I said 20 years, for example, because I didn't want it up to the reader to decide, is this somebody going through this for a couple of months, for a year? But no, this is 20 years of this. Sometimes people go through more than 20 years and they decide this is it for life. So I just have to just live like this for the rest of my life, to death shall us part, kind of thing. Right? And I'm saying that this particular person in this poem, if after 20 years of it, can't take no more, stepped away. Yeah? Stepping outside the door, getting the independence and so forth. Then I said, all right, now where do I want this poem to be? Do I want it to be in Jamaica, Dominica, England? Where do I want it to be? And so I actually decided I'm going to place it in England. So what could I put in this poem that would place it in England? So I actually mentioned a squirrel. Well, we don't have squirrels running up and down in Dominica, where my mother is from. We don't have squirrels running up and down in Jamaica, where my father is from, or where I am presently. But we have that in England. And I'm not sure if this is the reason why, but interestingly, when I shared this poem with Leisha, she was able to actually share it with other friends of hers who were able to relate to it, who were happy to hear it, who were actually healed by listening to it and reading it. So I don't know if that helped them kind of, relate to the fact that this is something that was in a place that I can relate to, England.
It sure did.
It was.
It did. It
Okay.
did. I'll tell you more.
Okay. so, so this is something that I'm very happy is international accepted internationally. I also mentioned buttercups, and that was one of the things that I liked when I walked around London to see the buttercups on the ground. I thought they were so beautiful. We had a thing when we were at prep school that we would take the buttercup and twist it underneath our neck. I don't know if you ever heard about that. No. Okay, yeah, you twist it underneath your neck.
Than you.
And if it shines, if you see it reflecting, it's good luck. And if you're not seeing it reflecting, apparently it's not good luck.
Okay.
But so
I
you
won't try
twist
it
under there. So that's something. But I used to love, but see to see the buttercups on the road. So that was something else that I put in the poem for that reason. And so I'm strong. I want to be strong. I want to be confident. I want to go out there and I want to be able to take on my new life. That kind of persona is what I have throughout the poem. And I mentioned there, led by my mother's grave, because my mother was one who prayed for us all the time. If we told our mother, and I say oh because I have another sister, other than Alicia, who she currently is in America, and if we said to my mother, we're having a test today, she praying. If we say we have some, we could be making an artwork, she praying. We have a concert coming up, she praying. And so, although she has passed, we all believe she's still praying for us. And she's leading our lives and making sure that we are covered. So that I mentioned that in the poem, just a little bit of myself coming out in the poem, and again a little bit of myself trying to move from feeling weak to feeling strong, which I have mentioned before in other podcasts. There is also mention of the road that I lived on, which is Denmark Road, that we actually had a small, what I thought was a huge road when I was a child. It's actually a small road. But just that whole perception of when you are in school, when you are in your childhood memories, you think of something that seems like it was big, and you go back there years later and you find it so small, and you're like, what? I remember at one of my prep schools, we used to run the front field, and I had a hard time getting from one end to the other when it's sports day. When I went there the other day, I'm like, what is that? That looked like 10 steps. And I couldn't make it running. so so sometimes we have that, and I kind of brought that in. Now, to make the drama of this poem is the fact that after many years of accumulating possessions, of building memories, all of that, to get away right now, you just fill up the car with what you can fill it up with and gone. That means you've left behind a whole lot of yourself. And that is part of this just letting go of whatever else is there. So before I read the poem, would you like to share anything on the poem? And I would love you to include what it's been like to have a sister as a poet, because your entire life you came into this world after I started writing poetry. So I don't know.
You're telling my age now.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
sorry.
So we'll do this in two folds. So we talk about the poem first, so we keep the content together. So when Dawn shared with me this poem and I read it, I was moved by this poem. And I'm a bit like in London, people come to me and confide in me. And when I finished reading this, I said, hang on here. Was Dawn in my head when this person was speaking to me? Because I was reading back what they were discussing with me or telling me what they were going through. And I'm like, no, this cannot be true. So I phoned on and I said, did I tell you what happened to this person? And she's like, no. And I said, well, it's all documented here. So I said, okay, take a step back. How am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? So many of you probably know there's International Women's Day. So I thought, right, that's the day I'm going to share this with that person and many more. And people who probably didn't go through this, they were amazed of the talent you have. Oh, you've written this, because they asked me, was she going through this? I said, no. It's what she felt, and she put herself in certain section for people and wrote it, and they're like, oh my gosh, she is so talented. So I said, well, if you look on Amazon, you can find a book of many poems that she's written. So if you want to have a look, you can have a look. But I did share it with the person who was going through this. And I met her. I showed it on her phone because I didn't want to send it to her, because you're not sure how people, if they wanted to relive what they've just gone through. So you had to I had to wait up and kind of be careful how I did it. So I explained to her, my sister wrote this, and it just brought back the conversation we had. And she read it, tears came, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly not everything I told you, but everything in this poem is exactly what I went through. She said she went down those stairs, and that was it. And she was going through, and she was like, this is the time, this is the day, this is the moment. As much as she had it planned that it was going to happen on this particular day, this is how she was going to do it, it didn't unfold that way. She went down, that was her calling. She took what she had, put in her car, and she drove away, and she left, not knowing where she was going, and went. And she was saying, the God, Lord will provide for her. She will find somewhere, and she will start again. And she left everything. And that was for many, many years of her possession, as you said, memories, photos, everything. She walked away and left with nothing but, as you said, a carload of stuff, her clothes, and she started her life again. She's in a far better place. She's so much happier. She has gotten comfort from your poem. Oh, she's printed it, laminated it, displayed it at her home, and she shared it with many people.
Wow.
So
That's
we
beautiful.
can go back to the International Women's Day, which we celebrate a lot in London, and people have read it and they were like, it is really a powerful poem. So, God's gift to you is writing, and writing for people what you feel. Now, growing up with a sister who is a poet, it has its good and it has its bad, but more good. Because I remember days of my mom coming home and she'll say, my mother wasn't well. Our mom was a nurse for many, many years. And she'll come home and says, oh, nurse, this, her sister died. Can you write me a poem, please? And I'll be sitting there and I'm like, if you are going to give a tribute, should you not be writing this poem? Oh no. But Dawn says, okay, tell me about the person. What's her name? What's her age? What did she do? How did she live? Just a few, probably 5, 6 points. And then an hour later, oh, mom. And she reads this poem. And I'm just like, how does she do this? Because I can't. So I said, well, that's good because I can benefit from it. And I'll say, Dawn, can you write a poem for me, please? What do I get? No, because what? I'm the youngest sister. But she does come with it after a while. She does email me or she WhatsApp it to me or she sends it to me. She does do it, but she just likes to test it. In 2001, I'll say I lost my first child, and Dawn wrote a poem. The world for a day. Yes. And as much as I was in London, Dawn was here, she wrote this poem. And I hope one day she will do a podcast on it. Maybe that's a podcast I should do. Being here. But I mean, it is amazing having a sister who all my life has been a poet, and watch her grow from and seeing her writing poetry from she was a child, obviously before I was born, and just 6 lines, and I'd read it and I was like, "Was that it?" To a whole 8, 9 paragraph verses, which is just amazing. And she's gone out and she's performed them, and she tries to memorize them, but they're quite long. And because she has so many, I mean, I give her credit for trying to remember every single one. There you go. She wrote this poem in 2001 for me. I didn't remember the name, and she remembers the name of it, but I know she wrote this poem. But I mean, it is great having a sister. Um, and yes, and I hope you continue to write more. Yes.
Thank you very much. Oh wow, that's just beautiful. Yes. So interestingly, I cannot recite any of my poems, but if I heard somebody reading anything from my poem, I can say that's mine. That came from me. I remember exactly where I was when I wrote it. That's something. But I cannot sit down and just read a poem straight like that. So I actually have to be prompted or have my book or have my phone or something. But I do remember every single title. And I've written thousands of poems. And I remember every single title. So it is difficult for me to duplicate a title. Meaning I wrote a poem yesterday. Is yesterday? The day before yesterday. Smoke.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And I know I have no other poem called Smoke. And so I actually wrote that one for my cousin that is going through quite a traumatic experience. But I just as an example that I know when I wrote the title Smoke, I know I have no other poem in my thousands of poems named Smoke. So if somebody says World for a Day, which is the one that I wrote for Alicia years ago, I know that I don't have any other poem named that. So yes, so the name of the poem is going to come to me, but I'm not going to remember the actual words of the poem. I can't recite it like that. But I kudos to those who can, because I have some poet friends that are, wow, I'm amazed that they have several poems and they're just able to spit out the poem just right away. Okay, so now I'm going to read the poem for you. As I descend the stairs of my home, I focus on the light beneath the door. It crawled towards me like a hunter. The hunter called out to me, "Come, it's okay, come." It carried the scent of freedom. Soon, this would be the last time I see this side of the door. The door that slammed shut my tears for 20 years. The door that meshed the fears of my independence. I stepped through the door with a vision of the final closing. Already my heart has a feather like response. The squirrel looks at me and knows something is different. My step increased confidence. My mind strong with the mantra, not taken anymore. The road I have lived for 30 years has shrunken. I see the yellow reflection of the nearby buttercups. For the first time, cheering me on. I continue to smell the snake of freedom chasing my echoes past. The strong, black, confident woman that everyone knows is no longer a charade. It is real. He tempered my moods and controlled. My thinking, my friendships, my decisions. I'm awake now with the strength of my ancestors, led by my mother's grave, my path of pebbles, now molten gold. I walk away from everything, my memories, my cell, my prison warden, my belongings. 30 years now condensed to a carload, fearless, triumphant, supported by the seen and unseen. I will rise victorious. When I close the front door for the very last time, the shackles will be left at the doorstep. He can wipe his feet on the new doormat of shackles. He may not believe he has lost, but I surely will know I have won. Won my life back. I'll be driving away one carload of new memories, new destination, new adventures, new tomorrow, reborn, strong, black, confident, and truly independent. Thank you, Alicia, for joining me.
Well, I want to say thank you from all the women who have gone through this, going through this, and will go through it. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
As I descend the stairs of my home, I see the light beneath the door. It crawls